Magic Tea House, Book number 55, A Merlin Mission, Night of the Ninth Dragon, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1. That's it? The day was cloudy and windy. Jack was sitting on the front porch, using a yellow marker to highlight a book called Caring for Your New Puppy. "Fetch, Okie!" Annie shouted, throwing a ball across their yard. "Yip, yip!" A scruffy black and white puppy raced after the ball and caught it in his mouth. "Bring it back," Annie called. But Okie dashed away from her instead. "He never does what you say," Jack said with a laugh. "Yes, he does," said Annie. "He fetched. He just decided not to bring it back." She ran after Okie and wrestled the ball away from him. "Ready to go to the dog park now?" she called to Jack. "Yep." Jack highlighted a paragraph about puppy dental care. Then he closed the book and dropped it into his pack along with his yellow marker. "All set." "Did you pack supplies?" said Annie. "Just his leash and water bowl," said Jack, "and some puppy treats." He pulled the leash out of his pack. "Wait, let's see if he'll walk with us on his own," said Annie. "If I know him, he'll take off," said Jack. "Come on, give him a chance. I've been working with him," said Annie. "Watch. Okie, come." The little dog ran to Jack and Annie. "See?" said Annie as they started down the sidewalk. "Do you really think he'll stay with us?" said Jack, putting the leash back in his pack. "Sure," said Annie. "Hey, do you have any money?" Jack asked. "What for?" said Annie. "I thought we could stop at the pet store," said Jack. "We need to get him a dog toothbrush and toothpaste. I was just reading that canine tooth care is very important. You have to..." Before Jack could finish, Okie yipped and dashed away down the sidewalk. "Okie, wait! Okie!" shouted Annie. "Stay!" But the puppy kept running. He crossed the street, bounded over the curb, and disappeared into the Frog Creek woods. "I knew it," Jack said. "Okie!" Annie shouted. She and Jack raced into the woods after the puppy. Tree branches were waving in the wind. Dry autumn leaves shook and rustled. "Okie!" yelled Jack. "You were right," wailed Annie. "We should have put him on the leash." "Don't worry, we'll find him," said Jack. "Okie," they called. "Okie." "Yip, yip." "Did you hear that?" said Jack. "Yes." Annie and Jack took off running between the trees. They followed the yipping sounds until they found the puppy at the base of a giant oak tree. The magic tea house was nestled high in the treetop. The rope ladder was swaying from side to side. "Good boy, Okie," Annie said. She picked up the puppy and giggled as he licked her face. "How did you know it was back?" "Teddy?" Jack called, looking up at the tea house. "Teddy?" There was no answer, and no one looked down from the window. "Let's climb up," said Annie. "There must be a message inside." "Yip, yip." "Yes, you're coming with us," Annie said to Okie. "Here, get in Jack's bag." Jack took off his backpack, and Annie lowered the puppy inside. "Is that going to be too heavy?" "No, he doesn't weigh much," said Jack, pulling on the pack. "Let's go, buddy." Jack carried Okie up the rope ladder, and Annie followed. When they had all climbed into the treehouse, Jack took off his pack and set it on the floor. Okie scampered out and began sniffing every corner. I don't see anything here, said Annie, looking around. Me neither, said Jack. There was no message from Merlin, no book from Morgan. There's nothing here to tell us what to do. Yip, yip, yip. Oki was looking out the window, barking at the woods. Jack looked up and saw a scrap of paper floating on the wind. Hey, is that our note? He said. It must have blown out the window, said Annie. I'll get it. She hurried back down the rope ladder. Oki kept barking as Annie chased the paper and finally snatched it from the ground. Annie read the note to herself and smiled. What does it say? Jack called. Good news, said Annie. What? What is it? Said Jack. See for yourself, said Annie. She scrambled back up the ladder and handed Jack the scrap of paper. Our favorite place to visit. Jack looked at the old-fashioned handwriting. Dear Jack and Annie, please come to Camelot. That's it, said Jack. It's good news, right? Said Annie. Yeah, but it doesn't look like Merlin or Morgan's handwriting or Teddy's. I don't understand. Who wrote this and why? Said Jack. It doesn't matter, said Annie. It's an invitation to Camelot. I love visiting Camelot, don't you? Of course, said Jack. They had visited the kingdom many times. He loved its orchards and the great hall and Morgan's magnificent library. Most of all, he loved their friends in Camelot. But something's weird. Don't worry, Jack. Let's just go, said Annie. Get ready, Oki. She pointed at the word Camelot on the note. I wish we could go there. Yip, yip. Jack grabbed Oki and held him tightly. The wind blew harder. The tea house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Hail, Your Majesty. The tea house was dark with shadows. Yip! Jack clutched Oki. He and the puppy both shivered in the damp, chilly air. Hey, our clothes didn't change, said Annie. She and Jack were still wearing their jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers. Right, said Jack. Maybe the person who invited us didn't know how to magically change our clothes, said Annie. Who is that person? Said Jack. He looked out the window with Annie and Oki. And where did we land exactly? The tea house was in a forest of ancient-looking oak trees with gnarled roots and sprawling branches. The shadowy woodland was eerily quiet. No birds sang, no squirrels scurried over the ground. Are we sure this is Camelot? Asked Jack. I wish we had a book to give us information. Let's go down and get information firsthand, said Annie. Okay, said Jack. He picked up Oki and put him inside his backpack. Then he pulled on the pack and followed Annie down the rope ladder to the forest floor. So, which way? Jack asked, looking around at the thick, towering oaks. Here and there, a shaft of sunlight shot through the treetops. Oki sniffed the air and barked excitedly. He wants to lead us somewhere, said Annie. Okay, but let's put him on the leash this time, said Jack. Annie lifted the puppy and the leash out of his pack. But before she could fasten the leash to Oki's collar, the puppy jumped from her arms and dashed off. Oki, come back, said Jack. Stop, cried Annie. Oh, brother, not again, said Jack, breaking into a run. Oki, Oki, stop, Annie yelled. Racing through the woods, Jack and Annie chased Oki around one huge tree and then another. They chased him through pools of light and shade, and over fallen leaves, twigs, and acorns, until the puppy dashed from the dappled dark into a bright wheat field. "Gotcha!" Annie said, grabbing Okie. "You've got to stick with us, buddy," Jack said as Annie attached the leash to the puppy's collar. "Where are we now?" said Annie. Tall yellow stalks of wheat blocked the view of the land beyond the field. All Jack could see was a faraway mountain range. "I don't know. Let's keep going," said Jack. With Okie pulling on his leash, Jack and Annie began pushing their way through the wheat. Morning sunlight shimmered on the tasseled stalks as they swayed in the wind. "Oh, wow, look over there," said Annie, pointing. Beyond the wheat, red flags waved from cone-shaped towers. Dragons decorated the flags. "King Arthur's castle." "Yes," said Jack. He and Annie and Okie pushed through the stalks until they came to an open field where cut grass was piled into haystacks. "Yay!" said Annie. "Let's go, Okie." The puppy pulled on his leash, and they all started running across the field toward the outer wall of the castle. When they drew close, a trumpet sounded. A guard appeared between two turrets. The guard aimed a crossbow at them. "Annie, stop!" Jack yelled. Okie barked wildly. Annie scooped him into her arms. "We come in peace," she called to the guard. "We have an invitation," Jack shouted. The guard scowled and kept his crossbow aimed directly at them. "Jack! Annie!" someone called. A golden-haired woman in a green cape was hurrying through the gate in the outer wall. As she ran toward Jack and Annie, the guard slowly lowered his weapon. "Queen Guinevere," said Jack. "Oh, wow," said Annie. "Hello, hello," Guinevere said when she reached Jack and Annie. "Hail, your majesty," said Jack, bowing. "Hail, your majesty," said Annie as Okie tried to wriggle out of her arms. "This is Okie, our new puppy." "Hello, Okie." Though she smiled, Guinevere looked worried. Her golden hair was tangled and her long gown was torn. "I am very glad to see all three of you," she said. "Did you send the tea house for us, your majesty?" said Annie. "Yes, long ago Morgan explained its magic to me," said the queen. "She told me how to send for you if I ever needed your help." "So, does that mean you need our help now?" said Jack. "I will explain everything," said Guinevere. "But it is not safe outside our castle walls. Come." She beckoned for Jack and Annie to follow her back toward the gate. "Not safe? Why?" Jack wondered as he and Annie hurried after the queen. Guinevere led them through the arched gateway. In the outer yard, Jack saw no sign of knights or servants, and no plowmen or stonecutters or carpenters working on the grounds. "Excuse me, your majesty, but are Merlin and Morgan here?" asked Annie. "And Teddy and Kathleen?" "No, they left a fortnight ago," said Guinevere. "Only a small number of us are here in Camelot." She waved at a guard beside the gate in the inner wall, and he raised the iron grid that sealed off the main entrance of the castle. Jack and Annie followed the queen across a wide courtyard. As Jack looked around, he saw that the stables and forge seemed to be empty. No grooms or blacksmiths were at work. "Where is everyone, your majesty?" he asked. 10 days ago, enemy invaders came ashore in the distant east, and the king and his knights sent out to defend the kingdom and push them back," the queen said. "After anxious days with no news of the battle, We received word that several bands of the invaders had slipped past the king's army and were heading toward Camelot. Before they arrived to plunder the castle, I led everyone who was still here to a hill fort hidden in the west. Yesterday I returned with only a few guards. Why did you come back? Annie asked. The queen sighed. Jack thought she looked as if she might cry, but then she steadied herself and spoke in a strong voice. Because at the fort I received terrible news. What news, Your Majesty? Asked Jack. I will explain, said the queen. But first I must take you to a secret place. Guinevere led them into the great hall, the main room of the palace. Beneath the vaulted ceiling, tables and benches were overturned. Broken earthenware platters and moldy crusts of bread littered the floor. Tapestries had been torn from the walls. Jack remembered what the great hall had been like when he and Annie had attended a celebration there. Warm, bright, and filled with music. What happened? He asked the queen. The invaders were looking for gold, she said. They stole gold candlesticks and goblets from the chapel and gold plates and bowls from the hall. The queen led Jack and Annie from the chilly hall into the castle kitchen and pantry. There was no clatter of cooks or scullions at work in the kitchen. No fire burned in the huge stone hearth. The wind whistled through the open windows. A rat scurried across the floor. Whoa, said Annie, stepping out of the way. Oki barked and squirmed in her arms. Without even glancing at the rat, Guinevere led them out of the kitchen, across an inner courtyard, and up a dark stairway. Were Merlin and Morgan scared too? Asked Jack, climbing after the queen. Is that why they left? Oh no, Merlin and Morgan left with Teddy and Kathleen before word came of the invaders, Guinevere said. I believe they know nothing about what has happened to Camelot. Can you send a message to them, Your Majesty? Asked Annie. I am afraid that is impossible, the queen said. She took a torch from the wall and hurried down a narrow passageway. Jack and Annie followed her to a heavy wooden door at the end. The queen opened the door and led them into a torchlit room. Inhaling the sweet, woodsy smell of books, Jack recognized the room at once. Morgan's library, he murmured. Shelves covered the walls from floor to ceiling. The shelves were filled with books from all times and places. Fortunately, the thieves were not interested in books, said the queen. They did not steal a single one. Good, I'm glad, said Jack. Books were more valuable to him than gold. Excuse me, Your Majesty, said Annie, but where did Morgan and Merlin go? And Teddy and Kathleen? And why can't you send word to them? I'll explain in a moment, said the queen. She crossed the room and opened another heavy wooden door. Damp, fragrant air rushed in from a lush garden, surrounded by tall stone walls. The answers to all your questions are here, said Queen Guinevere, in Morgan Le Fay's secret garden.